background of the financial crisis, which the foreclosures are really just a symptom of securities fraud, and I mean investment securities fraud. Wall Street figured out how to use promissory notes and mortgages as gambling chips, and this is the outcome: the bailout for the banks, homelessness for us. And Mike, I would just like to bring up to you that I think that we as a group can brainstorm a way to educate formerly middle-class people what it's like to be homeless today. Because there is a bridge, just like what Alan was talking about earlier, there is a way to bridge the lack of understanding of what the middle class is facing unless Occupy does its job. And what we are facing is the dwindling of everything that we have worked for, that we have believed in, and that we're raising our children to do. And so many of us here and out, the 99%, still look like we're middle class. We drive cars that look well, our clothes are still don't have holes in them. We have a refrigerator with food in it, but many of us have many dwindled resources. And give us 10 years and our kids will have clothes that are holes in them. Our teeth won't be as good because we can't afford the dentist. We won't have had health care for 10 years. We'll be driving either junkers or taking public transportation, which I personally believe in public transportation, but many people have never taken a bus, the formerly middle class or the dwindling middle class. And there is a role for you and people in your diminished circumstances to educate all of us. This is what is going to happen. This is what you are looking at. And I don't know how to bridge that gap, but I do think that there is a wonderful possibility to show people this is what we are facing unless Occupy is successful. And there's a way we can tie this together. Okay, so, because foreclosures has something to do with homelessness. Many people are losing the only home over their head, homes that may have been in their families for 20, 30, 40 years. The whole scheme is a land grab. It's very complex. So, there are some websites. Foreclosure Hamlet, like the Shakespearean Tragedy.org, Foreclosure Fraud with the number 4, foreclosurefraud.org. We just are out there to educate people, talk about the background of the foreclosure crisis. There's Inside Job, the movie. There's another couple of documentaries coming out, and more information is available to educate you. Without education, we are going to fall into the propaganda, not just us here, but the society is falling into the propaganda. The tens of millions of Americans back in 04, 5, and 6 decided, hey, I'm going to take out loans I can't afford. I'm going to have a heyday and vacations and buy homes I can't afford, and my family will live high on the hog for a couple years. And then, hey, if we're all homeless, who cares? It was a great couple years. I had a great run. That obviously makes no sense to any rational person. But that's the propaganda, and the 1% is extremely effective in that propaganda. Florida specific, there was just a bill. There's a bill that comes every single year for 3 years into our legislature to make it easier for the 1%, the banks, to steal the homes. Every year it comes to the legislature. Every year, activists on the ground fight these bills, and every year they get closer to passing it. This year, the bill flew through the House, it flew through the Senate, and people were opposing it. It's a redistricting year. No matter how you feel about voting, that is the system that exists today, and all Florida legislators, lawmakers are up for re-election this year because they are drawing new maps about who votes for who. So they realized the foreclosure crisis affects a lot of their voters, and so the Senate decided not to hear this bill on the floor, but 1% owned politicians hooked it on to a completely unrelated bill at 4 a.m. of the last day, which is yesterday. Now, whatever universe powers that you believe in, actually we learned about that, which it didn't come from me, but I got text messages and emails about 11 o'clock yesterday saying this is what they did. They're going to pass this unrelated bill with this hooked on amendment that says basically if a bank says they own the right to take your home, they can do it. They can do it. And you don't have any rights whatsoever. So they took the worst parts of the bill, hooked it on as this secret amendment, and then tried to pass it. And luckily, for whatever reason, we found out about it, we fought against it, and I would like to say the activists, because I only sent my own little group of emails, the activists in the state fought that. The session ended at 11:42 last night. They did not bring the bill or the amendments for vote. So at least today, we have no less rights than
Yeah.
I'm asking for that senator to be impeached. I called the president of the House and I asked for his impeachment to do that.
The two senators is Richter and Ring that put those amendments on, but they're not the only ones. It's the ones that brought the bills in the beginning of the session too. These are extremely dangerous people that we the 9%, elect to represent us. Regardless of what you feel about voting, that is the system that exists, and we as a group have people that are supposed to be watching out for us, and they are doing everything in their power, everything, to be harmful and dangerous and like a cancer and hurt us. And unless we educate people, you are voting for someone. You are voting for someone that may believe in your small little social issues. That there are people that say, I'm going to vote for anyone that believes a certain way about pregnant women or believes a certain way about who you choose to love. And yet those people get into power and will particularly put bills in place that will harm you, take the roof over your head, reduce your right to fight in court, that will reduce your social service safety net. We have to make sure we educate people. Don't vote on those, even the politicians themselves. Oh, we don't care what we believe on those issues. Those are just campaign issues. Those are just issues we talk about to get voters. Then once we're in, we ignore the needs of those people and we turn to our campaign contributors. We have to educate people. This is the system we have, and you're supporting it. If you vote for people that on a narrow range of issues go with what you believe in, but once they get in there, they will pass bills that harm you, leave you homeless, without a safety net. And that does have to do with foreclosure, because really this one was close this year, and next year it's probably going to even be closer. Because this year our one saving grace is that they're all up for re-election, every one of them. Next year, they're either in or they're not in. To fight this bill next year, we're going to need even more people to stand up. Okay, so where are actions? What can we do in Palm Beach County about the foreclosure crisis in general? One is to educate people. Tell the truth. Let's tell the truth. Do not be embarrassed if you're in foreclosure. Do not be embarrassed if you're not paying your mortgage. The whole system is set up as a land grab. The more people that they can get to dwindle out their last bit of the plan of the banks is you have a mortgage for about 60% more than what your home is worth. You owe a bank, we don't know which one, we lost control of that, but we're just going to pick any bank. You owe a bank about 60% more than what your home is worth. Imagine going to Publix and paying $10 for a loaf of bread instead of $2, okay? That's what tens of millions of Americans are facing today. They're going to pay $10 and the bank is saying, you're a deadbeat, irresponsible drag of society unless you are going to empty out your retirement, your savings, your kids' savings, and pay $10 for a $2 loaf of bread. And you know what would really solve this crisis tomorrow? If the tens of millions of Americans said no. If everyone just said no. I'm not doing it. Believe me, within a week we would have congressional hearings and elected representatives, and there would be all of a sudden a change because we're not feeding the monster. But it's very hard to break through the propaganda that you're an irresponsible deadbeat if you say, I am not paying 60% more for something than it's worth. That's what the 1% do. You know, there are some things the 1% do we can actually learn from and take that power back to the 99%. So, my job, I look at my job as education, because educated people will be a motivated society to make change, hopefully. I'm not the best at marshaling the forces, so someone else is going to have to take that on. We have so many people fighting against us. We have lawmakers. and we have judges, and we have this rocket docket foreclosure system. I mean, I have so many great ideas. We could get t-shirts that say foreclosure fraud observer. You know, MAD was very successful when they had Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They would put Mothers Against Drunk Driving and go into the court system and just sit there with their arms crossed and observe the trials. Judges, we are watching you. We don't want to lose one more of our children to this scourge. So we put foreclosure fraud observers and we go to court. If you've never been to foreclosure court, you are in for an eye-opening experience. The 1% have imposed by the banking sector saying, judges, don't pay attention to the people. Pay attention to whatever the bank says. You see it time and time again, time and time. Your Honor, I don't even have a mortgage. Well, the bank says you do. Here's their paper. You're out. You see it. You actually see these crazy, crazy, crazy things. That would show the judges, we are here. We are here and we are watching. It will make a difference. Judges are also elected into their position. The legislature has this new funding for retired judges that are not elected. They don't represent us. They get paid $350 a day to process and rubber stamp as many foreclosures as possible. That's called Rocket Docket. It was here in 2010. It was defunded in 2011. It's back in 2012. They're starting it again. I just think that would be a great way of showing. Plus, you know how many families will be there trying to fight their foreclosures? They're going to see someone with a t-shirt like that. That may increase our numbers. It will show people there is someone here at least observing and watching this injustice. The Attorney General of our state truly is a bank-friendly, bank-owned puppet. Her name is Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
She fired the foreclosure fraud investigators with no reason whatsoever. There was an investigation done into that firing upon my request and some request of some other activists. The report came out, 85 pages. I was named in it 71 times. So I guess you can judge a person by their enemies. This was produced by the Jeff Atwater, our chief financial officer.
Another banker, former banker.
Right, and the answer basically was Ms. Epstein was making up the entire foreclosure fraud crisis. She found a way to find innocent people at the Attorney General's office to investigate this, and she masterminded the whole thing.
Good for you.
Now, I mean, I like to think I have an impact, but I don't think I'm quite that powerful.
May I say something? Because I just found something. And you can't get this if you go to the law library at the courthouse. There is an administrative code they have to follow, but we don't have it for the public. It's not published for us. You have to have a law search Google, and I'll get you that administrative code. And he violated that administrative code if he did that. And I want to go after him anyway for some insurance fraud stuff. So let's get together with that.
So our Attorney General, though, the purpose of the Attorney General is to protect, they're the top legal officer in the state. There's one for state and there's one for the country. The purpose is to protect the people. That's it. They're lawyers for the people, okay? So she fires the people that are investigating this massive fraudulent system. And the investigation that into that firing comes out that it's really just a few activists. They're the problem. The activists are the problem. The ones speaking out and saying there's fraud, it's their problem. They're the ones that are doing wrong. So we have a great target for protests. You're supposed to protect us. Why are you harming us? Why?
Corruption.
Okay, so courts. In 2010, I was having Moratorium Monday protests in front of the courthouse. There was maybe 3 people, and I brought my daughter so I could pump up my numbers. I mean, I'm just not that good at marshaling the forces, but I would be out there every Monday with my foreclosure fraud signs, and so many people would come up and talk to me. But it's very hard to say when the media comes, tens of millions of Americans are affected by this crisis, and there's 3 people, and one is my how to employ the tactics of the 1% to keep an eye on this dirty, slimy, disgusting process that I really don't think Americans want a process where if you successfully successfully fight against a bill, they take the worst parts of the bill and put it on some completely different bill so they can slide it through. I don't think any American wants that, no matter what the bill's about. If you fight against a bill and you quash it, that they take the worst parts and hide it and sneak it onto another bill and then pass that bill through. I mean, if anything I learned, that is a slimy, disgusting process, and I would like to put an end to that. I don't have time right now to focus on that one, but again, we're learning these systems were put in place and we weren't paying attention. We need to pay attention and get more people to pay attention, because it doesn't matter what you're for. If you're fighting against something and you win, you don't want them to have a slimy, disgusting, hidden, secret treasure way of hooking that opposed process onto something else. But I have another day for activism on that. Okay, so there's, at the courthouse, we have a 4th District Court of Appeals. If you don't know how the court system works, when you have a legal battle in a lower court, and that's the 15th here in Palm Beach County, 15th District Court of Appeals, if you get a decision at some point from a judge that you don't like, there are certain ways that you can appeal that to the next higher level of courts. So it's like going there and saying, hey, I think the judge ruled incorrectly, didn't follow the process. Can you take a look at this, District Court of Appeals? And then the District Court of Appeals will come out and either say, no, I looked at it and the judge, that's a Freudian slip. The judges did okay, so I agree with them. Or they say, you know what, the process wasn't followed and they need to go back to the lower court and re-litigate this, okay? Our 4th District Court of Appeals is on Palm Beach Lakes, and they are extremely bank friendly. There have been many cases where people fighting their foreclosure, their fraudulent foreclosure, lose the case. The attorney or the homeowner or the family or the tenant brings it on up to the 4th District Court of Appeals, and in almost every case, the District Court of Appeals has said, no, the judges did fine, no problem. There have been 4 times, that the judges said, you know, this one's so bad, even we can't say that this was correctly done, so we're going to send it back. The lower court needs to look at this again. All 4 times. All 4. The bank lawyers have said, can you change that opinion? That doesn't work for us. If you can't change the opinion 180 degrees, add these footnotes so no other family in the state of Florida can rely on this decision to help save their home. All 4 times, all 4, the Court of Appeals did exactly what the bank asked. If you talk to lawyers, I never talked to a lawyer really outside of just a few people until I became an activist. Now I talk to lawyers all the time. I'm in the court all the time. This is unheard of. It is unheard of for judges appellate judges to reverse their opinion, to take one side and put little footnotes in. This is unheard of. We are losing ground. The 4th District Court of Appeals, again, they have to be elected to retain their seats. So no matter what you believe about voting, refusing to participate keeps these people in their positions of power. So I can understand wanting to abstain because of personal beliefs, but we have to understand there are consequences to our decisions, and keeping these people in their positions of power means more and more ability for the 1% to say that decision, that justice doesn't work for us, and to have that complied with by their servants in the courts. So that's a great place to protest. Okay. Also, there are vacant homes. There's an Occupy Our Homes. There's a whole movement about taking over vacant homes and putting the homes and the businesses and to good use for the community. OccupyOurHomes.org. And I am also going to run as part of my activism for clerk of court in Palm Beach County. So I'm using that as a way to just speak out and speak the truth. I need to get 8,219 signatures of registered voters in Palm Beach County. If anyone wants to help me collect those, just let me know. But again, This is all just for me, part of my activism. I have not too much respect for the whole political system, but you got to go where you're led. If anyone has any questions, I'm here for a little while longer, and then there's all kinds of ways we can fight this machine. So you can.